High on the sandstone walls of an Egyptian temple, a man is standing on a wooden scaffold with a copper chisel in his hand. It is a hot, still afternoon, and he is not building anything. He is erasing. Stroke by patient stroke, he cuts a name out of the stone, a name carved to last forever, and he keeps going until the figure of a king is nothing but a rough scar. Below him, other men do the same to statues, toppling them, breaking them cleanly at the neck and the waist. The strange thing is the timing. The king they are unmaking has been dead for more than 20 years. And the strangest thing of all is the secret hidden in that erased name. The pharaoh they are trying to delete from history was a woman. This is the story of Hatshepsut, one of the most successful rulers Egypt ever produced, and of the long, quiet campaign to make it as though she had never reigned at all. To understand how remarkable she was, you have to understand the rule she broke. In ancient Egypt, the pharaoh was more than a ruler. He was the living link between the people and the gods, the guarantor of order against chaos, and that role was imagined as male. Queens were powerful. Queens were honored. But the throne itself, the full crown and titles of kingship, was a man's seat. For a woman to sit in it fully was not simply unusual. It cut against the way Egyptians understood the universe. Hatshepsut was born into the heart of that world, around 1500 BC. Her father was Thutmose I, a soldier who had pushed Egypt's borders farther than almost anyone before him. She grew up inside the machinery of a great empire at its height, and she held one of the most sacred offices a woman could hold, God's wife of Amun, tied to the richest and most powerful temple in the land. When her father died, the throne passed to her half-brother, a man we call Thutmose II, and Hatshepsut became his queen. It was an arrangement Egyptian royalty used often to keep the bloodline pure. But Thutmose II was not strong or long-lived. When he died, the heir was a small boy, his son by a lesser wife. That boy would one day be called Thutmose III, and he would grow into one of the greatest generals of the ancient world. On the day his father died, he was far too young to rule. So as tradition allowed, the widowed queen Hatshepsut stepped in as regent, to govern in the child's name until he came of age. And this is the moment the story turns. Because for the first few years, Hatshepsut did exactly what a regent was supposed to do. Her name appears behind the boy kings. She is the caretaker, the guardian, holding the throne warm. And then, somewhere around the 7th year of that arrangement, something changed. Hatshepsut stopped being a regent. She became a pharaoh. We do not have her private thoughts, so we cannot say for certain what drove the decision, and honest historians admit that. But we can see exactly what she did. She took the full royal titles, the throne names, the crook, and the flail. In official art, she had herself shown as a king in every traditional detail, including the broad royal collar and the ceremonial false beard that was part of the pharaoh's formal image. This was not a disguise, and it was not vanity. It was the visual language of kingship, and she was speaking it fluently, telling her people that the office of pharaoh now rested on her shoulders. Crucially, she did not get rid of the boy. Thutmose III remained officially her co-king. But there was no doubt who ruled. For the next decade and a half, Egypt had a woman on the throne of the living god, and it flourished. That is the part the later erasure tried hardest to hide. And it is the part we should sit with, because Hatshepsut's reign was not a footnote. It was a golden age. Rather than spend Egypt's strength on war, she poured it into trade and building on a scale that still leaves people speechless. Her most famous adventure was an expedition to a distant land the Egyptians called Punt, somewhere down along the coast of the Red Sea, a place of legend that Egyptian ships had not reached in a very long time. She sent a fleet, and it came home laden with treasure, with gold and ebony and ivory, with exotic animals, and above all with living myrrh trees, their roots packed in baskets, to be planted in Egyptian soil. She had the whole journey carved in loving detail onto the walls of her temple, the ships, the strange houses on stilts, the ruler of Punt and his people. It was propaganda, yes, but it was also a genuine record of a real voyage, and it announced to everyone that under this pharaoh, the world came to Egypt. Then there was the stone. At the great temple of Karnak, she raised a pair of obelisks of pink granite, each cut from a single enormous block, among the tallest the world had ever seen. One of them still stands today, more than 28 meters of solid stone reaching into the sky. its tip once sheathed in gold to catch the first light of the sun. Moving and raising a monolith like that with only ropes, ramps, and human muscle was an engineering feat that would challenge us even now. And behind so much of this stands a second figure, a man named Hatshepsut. He rose from ordinary origins to become her chief steward and her master builder, the mind widely credited with designing her greatest monument. Some scholars have wondered whether the bond between them went beyond duty, pointing to the extraordinary honors she allowed him, including small images of himself hidden inside her sacred temple. Others see only a brilliant, loyal official rewarded for genius. The honest answer is that we do not know, and anyone who tells you they are certain is guessing. That greatest monument was her mortuary temple on the west bank of the Nile at a place now called Deir el-Bahri. Its ancient name was 𝗦ci𝘂𝗿𝗀𝗀, the Holy of Holies. Even in ruin, it is breathtaking, a series of broad, pillared terraces rising out of the desert floor and set against a towering cliff, as if the building and the mountain were designed together. It is clean and modern, and calm in a way that feels almost impossible for something more than 3,000 years old. It was built to keep her memory alive forever. And then, around 1458 BC, after roughly 2 decades in power, Hatshepsut died. Her co-king, the boy she had kept in the shadows, was now a man in his prime. Thutmose III took the throne in his own right at last, and he turned out to be a phenomenon, a general who led campaign after campaign and built an empire that reached its greatest size under his command. For years, he let his stepmother's memory stand. Her monuments rose untouched. Her name endured, which brings us back to the man on the scaffold. Because late in his long reign, more than 20 years after Hatshepsut's death, the order finally went out. Her image as pharaoh was to be removed. Workers went across her monuments, cutting her royal name from the walls, chiseling out her kingly figure, and pulling down her statues. It was careful and selective. Where she was shown simply as a queen, the images were often left alone. It was Hatshepsut the king they were targeting, not Hatshepsut the woman. For a long time, this was told as a tale of hatred, a resentful stepson finally taking revenge on the aunt who had stolen his throne. It is a satisfying story. But most historians no longer believe it, and here the scholars genuinely disagree. Why would a man wait more than 20 years to act on a burning grudge? A more convincing view is political. By erasing a female pharaoh from the record, Thutmose could make the line of kingship run cleanly from his father straight to himself, with no awkward woman in between, protecting the succession for his own son. And a striking recent study pushes further still, noting that many of her statues were broken at their weak points, the neck, the waist, the knees, in the same way Egyptians ritually retired the images of ordinary dead kings to neutralize their power. By this reading, some of the destruction was not rage at all, but ceremony. The debate is not settled, and it may never be. Whatever the reason, the campaign nearly worked. For more than 3,000 years, Hatshepsut was a blank, a scratched-out name, a puzzle. Only in the 19th century, as scholars slowly learned to read hieroglyphs again, did the erased figure begin to reappear on her temple walls. In 1903, the explorer Howard Carter opened her tomb and found it empty. And in 2007, a team announced that a lost mummy, found long before in a humble tomb, might be the lost queen herself, an identification argued from a single tooth, and one that some experts still question. So here is the lesson that outlived the chisel. You can cut a name from a wall. You can break the statues at the neck. But Hatshepsut built in living stone, and her terraces still climb toward the cliff at Deir el-Bahri, and her obelisk still catches the morning sun over Karnak. The man on the scaffold thought he was closing a door. Instead, across 35 centuries, he only made us look harder for the woman on the other side. And when we finally looked, there she was, exactly where she had always been, a king.